The night air on New Seoul Station buzzed with the usual sounds of a busy spaceport. Ships came and went every hour, their engines roaring as they lifted off into the dark sky filled with stars. Deep in the industrial district, where most people avoided walking after sunset, Kang Tae-ho worked alone in his small repair shop. Tae-ho wiped grease from his hands with an old cloth. He was tired but had one more engine to fix before he could go home. At 35 years old, he had been fixing things since he was a boy. His father taught him that every broken machine had a story, and every story had a solution if you looked hard enough. The shop was cluttered with spare parts, old tools, and half-finished projects. Tae-ho liked it that way. He knew where everything was, even in the mess. His assistant Park Sora always complained about the disorder, but she had gone home hours ago. Now it was just him, the hum of machines and the soft glow of work lights. He bent over a damaged plasma engine when a sound made him freeze. Something heavy scraped against the outside wall of his shop. The metal groaned under pressure. Tae-ho straightened up and listened. Space stations made all kinds of noises, but this was different. This sounded like claws. The front door exploded inward with a crash that shook the entire building. Metal pieces flew across the room as something massive forced its way through the opening. Tae-ho stumbled backward, his heart pounding as he tried to understand what he was seeing. A creature stood in the doorway that was bigger than anything he had ever imagined. It looked like the dragons from old Earth stories, but this was real. Its scales were deep red like fresh blood, and its eyes glowed yellow in the dim light. The creature was at least 12 feet tall, with wings folded against its back and claws that could tear through steel, but the dragon was not attacking. In its powerful arms it carried another dragon, this one smaller with silver scales that looked dull and sick. The silver dragon was unconscious, breathing in short, painful gasps. Strange gray growths covered parts of her body like some kind of disease. The red dragon looked directly at Tae-ho with eyes full of desperate hope. When it spoke, a small device on its chest translated the words into Korean. "Please," the dragon said, his voice deep and rough but filled with pain. "You must help her. Everyone else has turned us away. They say nothing can be done, but I heard humans can fix anything. Please, I am begging you." Tae-ho stared at the scene before him. His logical mind told him to run, to call security, to get as far away as possible. But something in the dragon's voice stopped him. The way the creature held his mate so carefully, the way his voice broke when he said please. This was not a monster. This was someone trying to save the person he loved most. "I am just a mechanic," Tae-ho said slowly, not taking his eyes off the dragon's. "I fix engines and machines. I am not a doctor." The red dragon's shoulders sagged, but he did not give up. "My name is Velthar of the Crimson Scales. This is my mate Lyrison of the Silver Wing clan. We have traveled to 17 worlds, seen the best healers in the galaxy. They all say the same thing. The crystal sickness has no cure. She will die and I will be alone." Velthar gently lowered his mate to the floor, making sure her head rested on a clean work mat. "But humans are different. I have heard stories. You see problems where others see impossibilities. You find ways where others find walls. If there is any hope left in this galaxy, it lives in the hearts of your people." Tae-ho looked at the silver dragon on his workshop floor. Up close, he could see how the gray crystals were spreading across her scales like a slow poison. Her breathing was weak, and her skin felt hot when he carefully touched her forehead. Whatever was wrong with her was getting worse. "Why do you think I can help?" Tae-ho asked. "I have never seen anything like this before." Velthar knelt beside his mate, his massive form somehow looking small and vulnerable. "Because you have not said no. Every other being we met took one look at the crystal sickness and sent us away. You are still here. You are still listening. That gives me hope." The shop door chimed as Park Sora rushed in, probably drawn by the noise of the broken entrance. She took one look at the dragons and grabbed the emergency communicator from the wall. "Sora, wait," Tae-ho said, holding up his hand. "Do not call security yet." "Are you crazy?" Sora stared at him with wide eyes. "There are dragons in our shop. Dragons, Tejo. Big, scary dragons with claws and teeth. Look at them, Tejo said quietly. Really look. Sora did look, and slowly her fear changed to something else. The red dragon was not threatening anyone. He was holding his mate's hand and whispering to her in a language the translator could not understand. His eyes were wet with tears that sparkled in the work lights. She is dying, Sora whispered. Yes, Velthar said, having heard her. Every day she gets weaker. The crystals spread further. Soon they will reach her heart, and then she will be gone forever. I cannot live in a universe without her light. Tejo made a decision that would change everything. He knelt down beside the silver dragon and examined the crystal growths more closely. They were not random. There was a pattern to how they spread, almost like a circuit board or the inside of a computer. I will try to help, he said simply. Velthar's head snapped up, hope blazing in his yellow eyes. You will? I cannot promise anything, Tejo warned. I do not know if I can fix this, but I can look and I can try. Sometimes that is enough. The red dragon bowed his great head, and when he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. Thank you, human Tejo. Even if you cannot save her, you have given me something I lost long ago. You have given me hope. Outside, the space station continued, its endless dance around the distant sun. Ships came and went, people lived their lives, and the galaxy turned as it always had. But in one small repair shop, something was beginning that would change the fate of two species forever. Tejo rolled up his sleeves and reached for his tools. He had work to do. Tejo had worked on machines his entire life, but he had never examined a living being before. Lyrisen lay still on the makeshift bed they had created from work mats and soft cloths. Her silver scales caught the light like broken mirrors. But the gray crystals growing across her body looked wrong, like rust spreading on clean metal. Tell me everything about these crystals, Tejo said as he carefully studied the growths with a magnifying glass. When did they first appear? Velthar sat nearby, his large form hunched with worry. 3 months ago, she found the first small crystal near her left shoulder. We thought it was beautiful at first. Our people have legends about crystal bonds, but those stories are from long ago. Crystal bonds. Tejo looked up from his examination. My ancestors could work with living crystals, Velthar explained. They helped us build great cities and forge metals with our minds. But that was before the great storm came and changed everything. Now most of our people have forgotten those gifts. Sora brought over a portable scanner that they usually use to check engine parts. Maybe this can tell us something about the crystals, she suggested. Tejo ran the scanner over one of the larger growths. The display showed energy patterns, unlike anything he had seen before. The crystals were not just sitting on Lyrisen's skin. They were connected to her nervous system, sending signals back and forth like a complex computer network. This is strange, Tejo muttered, studying the readings. The crystals are not attacking her body. They are trying to communicate with it. Before Velthar could respond, the shop door opened again. This time, it was Dr. Yoon Hana from the medical center, followed by 2 security officers. Sora must have sent a message despite Tejo's request to wait. Step away from the creatures, one of the officers commanded, his hand on his weapon. They are not dangerous, Tejo said firmly, moving to block the officer's view of the dragons. This is a medical emergency. Dr. Hana pushed past the security team and approached the dragons cautiously. She was a small woman with kind eyes who had treated Tejo for various workshop injuries over the years. What exactly is the situation here? The female is dying, Tejo explained quickly. Some kind of crystal growth is spreading through her body. I think it might not be a disease at all. The doctor knelt beside Lyrisen and began her own examination. Her medical scanner beeped as it recorded data. Fascinating, she whispered after several minutes. The crystals are not foreign invaders. They appear to be symbiotic organisms. Symbiotic? Velthar leaned forward, hope flickering in his eyes. Living, partners, Dr. Hana explained. They should be helping your mate, not harming her. But something has gone wrong with the relationship. Her body is rejecting them, and they are dying along with her. Teho felt something click in his mind, like a puzzle piece falling into place. It is like a machine with a bad connection. The parts are good, but they cannot talk to each other properly. He moved to his workbench and began pulling out various tools and spare parts. In engines, when two systems cannot communicate, we use a frequency modulator to help them sync up. Maybe that is what she needs. You want to treat a living being like a machine? Dr. Hana asked, sounding skeptical. Not like a machine, Teho corrected, connecting wires to a plasma conduit. But the principles might be the same. If the crystals and her body need to communicate better, maybe we can help them find the right frequency. Velthar watched as the human mechanic worked with focused determination. You really think this could work? I do not know, Teho said honestly, adjusting settings on a device he had built from spare parts. But doing nothing means she dies for certain. This way, at least we try something. Dr. Hana ran more scans on Lyra Sen while Teho worked. Her vital signs are getting weaker. Whatever we do, we need to do it soon. The device Teho was building looked like nothing anyone had seen before. It combined medical equipment with engine parts, connected by cables and controlled by a computer interface he had programmed himself. The security officers shook their heads and called for backup, but Dr. Hana told them to wait. This is either brilliant or completely insane, she said, watching Teho make final adjustments. Sometimes there is not much difference between the two, Teho replied. He placed small sensors on Lyrasen's scales, avoiding the crystal growths. The machine hummed to life, displaying wave patterns on its screen. Teho studied the readouts carefully, making small changes to the frequency settings. The crystals are trying to sync with her nervous system, he explained as he worked. But they are on the wrong frequency, like trying to tune in a radio station that is slightly off the channel. Slowly, carefully, he began adjusting the frequency modulator. On the screen, two wave patterns moved closer together. Lyrasen's breathing seemed to slow and deepen. Velthar moved closer to his mate, speaking softly to her in his own language. As Teho continued his work, something amazing began to happen. The gray color in the crystals started to fade, replaced by a soft blue glow. It is working, Dr. Hana breathed, checking her medical readings. Her vital signs are stabilizing. But Teho was not finished. He made more tiny adjustments, watching the wave patterns on his screen like a conductor guiding an orchestra. The blue glow in the crystals grew brighter, and Lyrasen's breathing became strong and steady. Suddenly, her eyes opened. They were the color of starlight, bright and aware. She looked around the workshop with confusion before her gaze settled on Velthar. My beloved, she whispered in accented Korean, her voice weak but clear. Velthar made a sound that was part roar and part sob. He gently touched her face with one clawed finger. I thought I had lost you forever. Lyrasen tried to sit up, and as she did, something incredible happened. The metal tools scattered around the workshop began to move on their own, floating gently through the air before settling into neat, organized rows. Everyone in the room stared in amazement. Lyrasen looked at her hands with wonder, then at the floating tools, then at Teho. You did not just save my life, she said, her voice growing stronger. You restored something my people thought was lost forever. Teho looked at his makeshift device, then at the dragons, then at Dr. Hana. I think, he said quietly, we are going to need to make some calls. Outside, word was already spreading through the station that something extraordinary had happened in the old repair shop. But none of them knew yet just how much this moment would change everything. The next morning brought visitors to Teho's workshop. Word had spread quickly through New Seoul Station that something amazing had happened in the repair shop. Station officials, scientists, and curious residents gathered outside, but Teho had locked the doors. Inside, Lyrasen rested while her strength slowly returned. Tell me about your people, Teho said, as he adjusted the frequency device that was still connected to Lyrasen. The crystals on her body now glowed with a healthy blue light. and her silver scales had regained their shine. Velthar sat cross-legged on the floor, his massive form somehow looking graceful and sad at the same time. We call ourselves the Drakmori, which means children of stars and stone in the old language. Long ago, we were builders of wonders. He gestured to the floating tools that still orbited slowly around Lyra Zen. Our ancestors could shape metal with their thoughts, grow crystals that stored knowledge, and build cities that touched the clouds. We worked in harmony with the crystal beings, and together we created marvels that lasted for thousands of years. What happened? Sora asked. She had arrived early and brought breakfast for everyone, including raw minerals that Velthar said dragons needed in their diet. The void storm. Velthar's voice became heavy with old pain. A wave of cosmic radiation swept through our home system 300 years ago. It lasted for weeks, changing everything it touched. Most of our crystal partners died. Those that survived became confused and sick, unable to bond properly with my people. Lyra Zen spoke from her resting place, her voice still weak but growing stronger each hour. I was born after the storm, but my grandmother carried old crystal eggs in her body. When I hatched, one of the last healthy crystals bonded with me. I was the first of my generation to have the gift. Teho studied the readings on his device. The wave patterns were stable now, showing perfect harmony between Lyra Zen and her crystal partner. So when you got sick, your people thought the old gifts were truly dead. Yes, Velthar nodded. We tried everything. Our best healers, the wisest elders, even technology from other worlds. Nothing worked. The crystal bond was failing, and, with it, the last connection to our ancient heritage. Dr. Hana entered the workshop carrying a medical bag and several data tablets. She had been studying the readings from yesterday's treatment all night. I have been analyzing your scans, she told Lyra Zen. What Taiho did was remarkable, but I do not fully understand how it worked. Teho scratched his head, looking at his makeshift device. I treated the problem like a communication error between two computer systems. The crystals and her nervous system needed to sync up, so I built a translator to help them find the right frequency. But how did you know what frequency to use? Dr. Hana asked. I did not, Teho admitted. I started with basic harmonic principles and adjusted until the patterns matched. It was like tuning a musical instrument by ear. Velthar stared at the human mechanic with growing amazement. You solved in one day what our greatest minds could not fix in 3 centuries. How is this possible? Before Teho could answer, heavy footsteps echoed outside the workshop. Lieutenant Commander Bayek Jin Woo of Station Security appeared at the window with several armed officers. He had been growing increasingly concerned about the dragon's presence on the station. Open up, Jin Woo called through the door. We need to discuss the situation with these alien visitors. Captain Kim Soo-jin appeared behind him, her uniform crisp and her expression serious but not hostile. Let us in, Teho. We need to understand. What is happening here? Reluctantly, Teho unlocked the door. The security team entered cautiously, weapons ready but not aimed. Captain Kim looked around the workshop, taking in the floating tools, the glowing crystals, and the dragons who watched her calmly. Explain, she said simply. Teho told the story of the last 2 days while Dr. Hana showed the medical readings. Velthar and Lyra Zen answered questions about their people and their long journey to find help. The security officers listened with growing amazement. You are telling me, Jin Woo said slowly, that a mechanic cured an alien disease that their own doctors could not fix? It was not a disease, Lyra Zen corrected gently. It was a broken partnership. Teho helped us remember how to communicate with our crystal friends. Captain Kim studied the data on Dr. Hana's tablet. These readings show that the treatment is not just working, it is improving. The crystal integration is stronger now than when you first arrived. The bond grows stronger each day, Velthar explained. Lyra Zen can now do things that our ancestors only dreamed of. Watch. Lyra Zen slowly stood up, her movements graceful despite her recent illness. She looked at a pile of scrap metal in the corner of the workshop. Without touching it, she began to reshape the metal pieces with her mind. They flowed like liquid, forming intricate patterns and finally becoming a beautiful sculpture of a dragon, in flight. The security officer stepped back in shock. Captain Kim whistled softly. That is definitely not in any of our first contact protocols. There is more, Lyrasen said. She approached Taeho's frequency device and placed her hand near it, not quite touching. The machine began to hum differently, its displays showing new patterns that were more complex and beautiful than before. She is improving the design, Taeho realized with excitement. The crystals are teaching her how to make it better. Dr. Hana ran her scanner over the modified device. The efficiency has increased by 40%, and look at these new readings. The machine is now producing frequencies we did not even know existed. Velthar looked at his mate with pride and wonder. You have surpassed even our greatest ancestors, my beloved. The bond is stronger than it has ever been. But why? Captain Kim asked the question everyone was thinking. Why did a human mechanic succeed where your own people failed? Lyrasen turned to look at Taeho, her starlight eyes thoughtful. Because he listened without knowing it was impossible. Our healers tried to fix what they thought was broken. Taeho helped two friends find each other again. She moved closer to the human, and as she did, something strange happened. The crystals on her body began to glow brighter, and the tools around the workshop started to move in complex patterns. But more importantly, Taeho felt something he had never experienced before. I can sense the machine's thoughts, he whispered in amazement. The frequency device, I can feel what it needs, how to make it work better. Dr. Hana quickly ran her scanner over Taeho. Her eyes widened as she read the results. This is impossible. Your neural patterns are shifting, synchronizing with frequencies that should not affect human brains. Velthar and Lyrasen exchanged a look that spoke of ancient knowledge and new possibilities. Perhaps, Lyrasen said softly. The crystal beings have been waiting for the right partners all along. Perhaps they have been waiting for humans. Outside the workshop, more people gathered as news of the miracle spread. But inside, three very different beings were beginning to understand that they had stumbled upon something that would change the galaxy forever. The age of human-dragon partnerships was about to begin. By the third day, Taeho's workshop had become the most important place on New Sol Station. Scientists, doctors, and government officials crowded outside, all wanting to witness what many were calling a miracle. Inside, Lyrasen grew stronger. By the hour, her silver scales now shining like mirrors and her crystal growths pulsing with vibrant blue light. Taeho could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he felt strange sensations flowing through his mind. He could sense the metal pipes in the walls, the electrical systems running through the station, even the engines of ships docked at the port. It was as if the entire mechanical world around him was trying to talk to him. The changes in you are accelerating, Dr. Hana said as she checked her scanner readings. She had been monitoring both Taeho and Lyrasen every few hours. Your brain patterns are unlike anything in medical records. Lyrasen sat up on her makeshift bed, moving with fluid grace that had returned along with her health. The crystal bond recognizes something in you, Taeho. Something that resonates with its ancient purpose. What do you mean? Taeho asked, though part of him already suspected the answer. Velthar had been quiet for most of the morning, studying his mate, and the human with growing excitement. Show him, he finally said to Lyrasen. Show him what our ancestors could do when the bonds were strong. Lyrasen nodded and stood up. She walked to the center of the workshop where dozens of broken machine parts lay scattered. These were pieces that Taeho had given up on, parts so damaged that even his skill could not repair them. She knelt among the broken pieces and placed her hands just above them, not quite touching. The crystals on her body began to glow brighter, and suddenly the workshop filled with a sound like singing metal. The broken parts started to move, lifting into the air and flowing together like liquid. But this was more than simple repair. As the pieces merged and reformed, they became something entirely new. What had once been scrap metal was now a device that hummed with quiet power, its surfaces smooth and perfect, with patterns of light running through it like veins. A crystal resonance amplifier, Velthar breathed in amazement. I have only Heard of such things in the oldest stories. Our greatest ancestors could build them, but the knowledge was lost in the void storm. Dr. Hana scanned the new device with her equipment. The energy patterns are incredible. This thing is generating frequencies that should not be possible with our technology. Teho approached the amplifier, and as he got closer, the strange sensations in his mind grew stronger. He could feel the device calling to him, inviting him to understand its purpose. Without thinking, he reached out and touched its surface. The moment his skin made contact with the amplifier, everything changed. Energy flowed through Teho like electricity, but it did not hurt. Instead, it felt like coming home after a long journey. His consciousness expanded, connecting him to every machine in the workshop, then the building, then the entire station. He could sense the great fusion reactors that powered New Seoul Station, feel the life support systems breathing for thousands of residents, and even touch the navigation computers of ships preparing to launch. All of it was connected. All of it was alive in its own way, and all of it welcomed him like an old friend. Tae-ho. Sora's voice seemed to come from very far away. Your eyes are glowing. He looked at his reflection in a polished metal surface, and saw that his brown eyes now held flecks of the same blue light that shone from Lyrasen's crystals. But more than that, he could see the energy patterns flowing through everything around him. This is impossible, Dr. Hana whispered, reading her scanners frantically. Human nervous systems cannot process these kinds of frequencies. You should be dead or at least unconscious. But he is not, Lyrasen said with wonder in her voice. He is adapting. His mind is changing to accept the crystal bond in ways my people never could. The workshop door burst open and Ambassador Lee Min-ho from the Human Colonial Authority rushed in, followed by a team of advisors and security personnel. He had been traveling from the capital sector for 2 days after receiving emergency reports about the situation. What exactly is happening here? He demanded, then stopped short when he saw Tae-ho standing with his hands on the glowing amplifier, blue light dancing in his eyes. Ambassador, Captain Kim stepped forward to explain. We have a situation that goes far beyond first contact protocols. This human appears to be bonding with alien technology in ways that should not be possible. Velthar moved protectively closer to his mate, but his voice remained calm. Ambassador Lee, your people have given us a gift beyond measure. They have restored what we thought was lost forever. But more than that, they have shown us a new path forward. Explain, the ambassador said, his eyes never leaving Tae-ho. Lyrasen spoke for her mate. For 300 years, we believed the crystal bonds were dying because the void storm damaged our ability to connect with them. But we were wrong. The bonds were not broken. They were waiting. Waiting for what? Dr. Hana asked. For partners who could adapt, Tae-ho said, his voice carrying a new quality that seemed to resonate with hidden harmonics. Human minds are flexible in ways other species are not. We can change, grow, and sync with different patterns. The crystals needed that flexibility to heal from the damage of the storm. He lifted his hands from the amplifier, and the glow in wire. His eyes dimmed but did not disappear entirely. Around the workshop, every piece of machinery hummed with new efficiency. Broken tools had repaired themselves, and even the damaged doorframe from Velthar's dramatic entrance had somehow been restored. Ambassador Lee stared at the transformed workshop, then at the readings on Dr. Hana's equipment. Are you telling me that humans can bond with these crystal organisms? Not just bond, Velthar said, his voice filled with excitement. Partnership. True partnership. What Tae-ho has achieved in 3 days would have taken our ancestors months to accomplish, even in our golden age. The implications are staggering, one of the ambassador's advisors whispered. If humans can work with their technology. Not work with, Lyrasen corrected gently. Work together. The crystals are not tools. They are living beings with their own thoughts and desires. They have been alone and confused since the storm, but now they have found new friends who can understand them. Tae-ho looked at his hands, still feeling the residual energy flowing through his nervous system. I can sense machines across the entire station now. I know which systems need maintenance, which ships have engine problems, even which coffee makers in the residential sector are about to break down. This changes everything, Ambassador Lee said quietly. The potential for technology advancement, for space exploration, for solving problems we never thought possible. It changes everything for my people too, Velthar added. For the first time in 3 centuries, we have hope that our civilization can rise again, but not as it was before. Better, stronger, with human partners who can help us reach heights our ancestors never dreamed of. Sora, who had been watching everything, with wide eyes, finally spoke up. So what happens now? Tejo looked at Lyrison, then at Velthar, then at the glowing amplifier that had changed his life forever. Now we find out just how incredible this partnership can become. Outside the workshop, word was spreading across the galaxy that something extraordinary had happened on New Sol Station. But inside, 4 beings from 2 different worlds were already planning a future that would transform both of their species forever. The age of crystal bonds had returned, and this time, it would be greater than ever before. 3 weeks after that first desperate night, Tejo stood in a place that had once been an empty asteroid field. Now it buzzed with activity as construction ships from a dozen different worlds worked together to build something that had never existed before. New Harmony Station was taking shape, and it was beautiful. The crystal bond had changed Tejo in ways he was still discovering. He could feel the heartbeat of every machine within 100 kilometers, sense structural problems before they became dangerous, and guide construction with an intuition that amazed even veteran engineers. But the most incredible change was not in his abilities, it was in his understanding. The supports for Section C need to be stronger, he said into his communication device, his enhanced senses detecting tiny stress fractures that normal scanners would miss. The metal is singing, in the wrong key. Lyrison floated beside him in the zero-gravity observation deck, her silver scales now permanently marked with flowing lines of blue crystal that pulsed with her heartbeat. She had become the first of her people to achieve a perfect bond in 3 centuries, and other Drakmori had begun arriving from across the galaxy to witness the miracle. The construction crews are learning quickly, she observed, watching as human and dragon workers collaborated to install a massive crystal matrix that would power the station's life support systems. Your people adapt faster than anyone expected. Below them, Sora directed a team of human technicians who were learning to work with crystal technology. She had been the second human to undergo the bonding process, and her mechanical intuition had grown so sharp that she could tune an engine by listening to its exhaust note. Her crystals were smaller than Tejo's, but just as bright, forming elegant patterns along her arms like living tattoos. Incoming message from the Colonial Council, Captain Kim announced as she entered the observation deck. She now served as the military liaison for the Joint Colony Project, and her uniform had been modified to include crystal communication devices that allowed instant contact across vast distances. Put it through, Tejo said. Director Choi Hyojin appeared on the holographic display, her expression serious but not unfriendly. She had been skeptical about the colony project at first, but the results spoke for themselves. In just 3 weeks, human dragon teams had accomplished construction work that should have taken months. The preliminary reports are impressive, she said without preamble. Your teams have exceeded every projected timeline. The question is sustainability. Can this partnership really work long-term? Ambassador Lee stepped into view beside the director. He had become the primary advocate for the colony project after witnessing Tejo's transformation firsthand. The benefits are undeniable. Crystal-bonded humans can detect problems that our best sensors miss, and dragon partners provide engineering. Knowledge that advances our technology by decades. But there are concerns, Director Choi continued. The medical risks, the social implications, the fact that we are changing human biology in ways we do not fully understand. Dr. Hana, who had relocated to New Harmony Station to study the bonding process, joined the conversation. The health monitoring results are better than we hoped. Bonded humans show improved reflexes, enhanced pattern recognition, and increased resistance to radiation. The crystal organisms seem to protect their partners as much as they empower them. Velthar entered the observation deck, his massive form moving gracefully in the low gravity. He had become the unofficial leader of the Drakmori who had come to join the colony, and his presence commanded respect from both species. "The concerns are understandable," he said in his deep voice. "My people had similar fears when the first crystal bonds were formed thousands of years ago. But we learned that the crystals do not change us into something we are not. They help us become more than we were." Director Choi studied the data streaming across her display. "The terraforming projections for the Kepler system are remarkable. You claim a bonded human-dragon team could prepare a world for colonization in 5 years instead of 50. "Not claim," Taeho said confidently. "We have already begun preliminary work on 3 candidate worlds. The crystal matrices can accelerate atmospheric processing, while human intuition guides the placement of weather control systems. What once seemed impossible now feels inevitable." The director was quiet for a long moment, reviewing reports and cost projections. Finally, she spoke. "The Colonial Council has voted to approve full funding for New Harmony Station and 3 additional research outposts. We are authorizing the recruitment of 500 volunteers for the bonding program." Cheers echoed through the observation deck as humans and dragons celebrated together. But Taeho felt something deeper than joy. Through his crystal bond, he could sense the happiness of every bonded pair on the station, a harmony of consciousness that connected them all without erasing their individual personalities. "There is one more thing," Director Choi added. "We have received requests from 17 other alien species asking to study the bonding process. Word has spread that humans can adapt to almost any form of symbiotic relationship." Lyrasen looked at Taeho with eyes that sparkled with starlight and pride. "Your species never stops surprising us. First you save one dying dragon, and now you offer hope to the entire galaxy." 6 months later, Taeho stood in what had once been his cluttered repair shop. It had been preserved exactly as it was on that first night when Velthar crashed through the doors. Now it served as a museum and meeting place, a reminder of how small acts of kindness could change the fate of worlds. Visitors came from across the galaxy to see where the first human crystal bond was formed. School children pressed their faces against the glass barriers, listening to tour guides tell the story of the mechanic who looked at a dying dragon and decided to try something impossible. "Daddy, why did the dragon come to a human instead of his own doctors?" a young girl asked her father during one tour. The father, who wore the blue crystal markings of a successful bond, smiled as he answered, "Because sometimes the best solutions come from people who do not know something is supposed to be impossible." Sora approached Taeho as the tour group moved on to the next exhibit. She carried a datapad showing the latest reports from New Harmony Station and the growing network of human dragon colonies. "The latest bonding candidates have a 98% success rate," she reported. "Dr. Hana thinks we might achieve perfect compatibility within the year." "And the dragon responses?" Taeho asked. "Better than we dared hope. 12 different clans have sent representatives, and they are bringing crystal eggs that have been dormant since the Void Storm. Your success with Lyrasen gave them hope that the old bonds could be restored." Through the workshop windows, Taeho could see the lights of ships coming and going from the station. Some carried human volunteers eager to join the bonding program. Others brought dragons searching for partners who could help them reclaim their ancient heritage. All of them were drawn by the same thing that had brought Velthar to this small repair shop on a desperate night: hope. The crystal matrix embedded in Taeho's nervous system pulsed gently, connecting him to thousands of bonded pairs across dozens of worlds. Each bond was unique, each partnership brought new discoveries, and each success proved that the galaxy was far more connected than anyone had imagined. As the lights dimmed in the memorial workshop, Taeho felt a familiar presence. Approaching, Lyrasen appeared in the doorway, her silver scales catching the soft glow of the crystal displays. "The Council of Elders has made their decision," she said, her voice filled with quiet emotion. "For the first time in 300 years, they have declared a new golden age for the Drakmori. They are calling it the Human Bond Era." Taeho smiled and took her hand, feeling the warm pulse of crystal energy that connected not just the two of them, but an entire galaxy of partnerships that had grown from one mechanic's willingness to help a stranger in need. Something incredible had indeed happened in that small repair shop, but it was only the beginning.